It all started on a Wednesday night, quiet, uneventful, and as ordinary as they come. I was lounging in our living room, half watching a documentary about national parks, my feet stretched out on the ottoman. Outside, a soft drizzle tapped against the windows, the kind of steady, calming rain that usually lulled me into a rare moment of peace. Our apartment in Austin was warm, almost too warm with the fireplace going, but I didn't mind. I liked the heat. It was familiar. Then, the front door slammed shut. Not violently, but not gently either. Just enough force to cut through the ambient noise of the rain and the TV and make me sit up. A second later, I heard the click of high heels on the hardwood floor, and then her voice, bright, chipper, slightly breathless. "Hey babe. I'm home." My wife, Haley, had returned from another one of her business trips. She was an interior designer, talented, ambitious, and lately constantly in motion. Her firm had picked up a big project in another state, some high-end boutique hotel in Nevada, and she'd been flying out there for weeks now. 3 days here, 4 days there, it was starting to feel like I saw her more in Instagram stories than in real life. But tonight, she was back. I got up from the couch as she breezed in, dragging her carry-on behind her with one hand, a large white tote swinging from the other. Her hair was pulled up in a casual bun, her makeup still flawless, and she wore a long beige coat that smelled faintly of expensive perfume, something floral and sweet. "You look comfortable," she said, eyeing my sweatpants and hoodie with a laugh. I shrugged. Figured I'd have a lazy night. She leaned in and kissed me quickly on the cheek, her phone already in her other hand, fingers tapping away. Then she plopped onto the couch, sighing dramatically like she'd just returned from war. "You wouldn't believe the last few days. The presentation went amazing. Like, beyond expectations. I was so nervous, but they loved it. The clients even took us out for dinner afterward, full 5-star experience. Truffle risotto, $100 wine, the whole 9 yards. I sat back down beside her, smiling as she talked, but something tugged at me. Not quite suspicion, not yet, but something. Her energy was different. Normally, she came back from these trips exhausted, craving a nap and takeout and the comfort of our couch. But tonight, she was practically vibrating. Excited. Effusive. Almost rehearsed. She scrolled through her phone as she talked, then suddenly burst into laughter, not at anything I said, but something on the screen. "Oh my God, Amanda just sent me the funniest meme," she said, angling the phone away from me so I couldn't see it. "Amanda." Her coworker. "Sure." I didn't say anything. "Sounds like a good trip," I offered, watching her eyes dart back to her screen. "Glad it went well." "Honestly? That's trip yet," she said. "It just felt right, you know? Like everything clicked." I nodded, but the stone in my gut grew heavier. It was in the way she spoke so quickly, like she was trying to cover all the bases at once. The way she couldn't stop smiling, not at me, but at her phone. The way she kept looking at the time, checking her messages as if she were waiting for something. Or someone. And it wasn't just her behavior. It was her tone. Overly enthusiastic. Slightly forced. Like she was acting out the role of happy wife returns from work trip, but the performance didn't quite match the script. After a few minutes, she excused herself to the bedroom to unpack. I stayed on the couch, staring at the TV but not really watching. The documentary was still playing, but my thoughts were far from Yosemite. I told myself I was being paranoid. She just had a successful trip. Maybe she was genuinely happy and I was reading too much into it. We hadn't spent a lot of time together lately, maybe I just wasn't used to her anymore. Maybe I was projecting my own restlessness onto her. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling. Something about tonight didn't add up. When she came back out, she was wearing one of my t-shirts and her old pajama shorts, barefoot, hair down. She curled up beside me and tried to act like everything was normal. She leaned her head on my shoulder, asked what I was watching, laughed at a bad pun on the screen. For a moment, I almost let myself believe it. But even then, she kept checking her phone. A text would come in, she'd glance at it, type something, then slip the phone face down on the cushion beside her. And each time she did, her eyes would flick toward me, quick and nervous, as if checking to see whether I'd noticed. I did. I always did. After about an hour, she got up again, said she was going to take a bath. I nodded. She smiled, disappeared into the hallway, and I listened to the sound of water running in the bathroom. I turned off the TV, sat in silence for a few minutes. Then I picked up her phone. I didn't unlock it. Just stared at it. It was one of those newer models with Face ID. Locked tight. No notifications on the screen. Nothing to go on. But even just holding it felt wrong. Like I'd crossed a line without even meaning to. I set it back down. Got up. Walked into the kitchen. Poured myself a drink. I wanted to trust her. I wanted this feeling in my gut to be wrong. Just a fluke. A bad instinct. the result of too many crime shows and late-night Reddit threads. But as I leaned against the counter, sipping my whiskey, the silence in the apartment felt less like peace and more like something hiding in the dark, waiting to be discovered. The next morning started like any other, but I was already watching her differently. Haley had woken up early, made coffee, and was in the middle of an upbeat phone call with someone from work. Or at least, that's what she said. She was speaking quickly, a little too cheerfully, pacing back and forth in the kitchen with her AirPods in. I stayed in the hallway out of sight, listening for context. But all I caught was something about last night being amazing and not now, I'll message you later. That could have meant anything. I told myself that. But I also noticed she lowered her voice when she said it. I walked into the kitchen, pretending I'd just woken up. She jumped slightly when she saw me. "Oh, hey, you scared me," she said, slipping one AirPod out. "Just talking to Michelle about the next project deadline. Everything okay?" I asked, walking over to pour myself a cup of coffee. "Yeah. Just tight schedules, you know how it is." I nodded, but something in her tone made me pause. It wasn't just that she was jumpy. It was how fast she pivoted. The way she changed the subject the moment I walked in. Like she was closing a curtain over something I wasn't supposed to see. Over the next few days, the feeling grew like a splinter I couldn't dig out. She was glued to her phone now. Always texting, always scrolling. I noticed she started turning the screen away from me more often. She'd go quiet when I walked into the room, then pick up her phone again the second I left. And when I'd ask who she was texting, it was always vague, a client, a coworker, her sister. But never anything specific. Once she got a message while we were watching a movie. Her phone lit up on the coffee table, just a name and can't stop thinking about last time. She snatched it up so fast I barely caught it. When I asked who it was, she mumbled something about a Pinterest group chat and buried herself in a pillow. She didn't laugh at my jokes the same way anymore. Didn't ask how my day was. There were little things, forgetting we had plans, missing small details, wearing new clothes I didn't recognize. She even wore perfume around the house, the kind she used to save for date nights. Then came the moment that changed everything. It was a Tuesday evening. She came home later than usual, saying she stopped by a boutique downtown for some new samples. She looked flushed, almost giddy, the kind of mood she used to have when we'd spend a whole day at the lake or splurge on a nice dinner. I tried to shake the feeling. We had dinner, talked about nothing important. But later, when I was in the living room, I heard her voice, low, urgent, from down the hallway. I stood up. The bedroom door was cracked open. She was kneeling by her suitcase, whispering into her phone. "Not now. I told you, not tonight. He's here." "Yes, I will, I promise. Just stop." My heart slowed. I stepped closer, and as I did, the door creaked under my foot. She turned sharply, caught my eye, and froze. For a beat, neither of us said anything. Then she snapped her phone shut and stuffed it into her bag like it had burned her. I walked in casually. "Everything okay?" She stood up too fast. "Yeah. Just some design notes I was organizing." "Who were you talking to?" "No one. A voice memo for myself." She couldn't even look me in the eye. And I didn't believe a word. She walked past me, brushing against my shoulder on her way to the bathroom. "I'm taking a shower," she said over her shoulder, her voice shaky. "Long day." When the door clicked shut, I just stood there in the dim light of our bedroom. Something was in that bag. She'd been hiding something. Whatever it was, it made her act like a kid caught sneaking out past curfew. I tried to reason with myself, maybe it really was work. Maybe she was just under pressure. But the pit in my stomach was screaming. So I opened the bag. It was mostly what you'd expect, receipts, her planner, a few fabric swatches. But tucked into a side pocket was a sleek black envelope. Thicker paper, glossy. Not something you'd get from a work event. I hesitated, then pulled it out. Inside was a card, white, handwritten in gold ink. For a special night. It was in her handwriting. Along with it, folded neatly in tissue paper, was a matching set of lingerie. New. Tags still on. Not the kind of thing she'd wear for herself. And certainly not something she'd pack on a trip that was supposedly all business. I felt like I'd been punched. I stared at the card for a long time, like maybe the words would rearrange themselves into something innocent. They didn't. I sat on the edge of the bed, the envelope still in my hand, and tried to process what I was feeling. Anger, sure. Confusion. But mostly disbelief. Like this wasn't my life, like I'd wandered into someone else's nightmare. Haley wasn't a liar. She wasn't a cheater. Except now I had proof she was at least one of those things. I put everything back exactly as I found it, the card, the lingerie, the envelope, and zipped the bag shut just as I heard the water turn off. I went back to the living room and tried to act normal. She walked out minutes later in a robe, smiling faintly like nothing had happened. She curled up next to me on the couch and asked if I wanted dessert. I said no. That night, I couldn't sleep. She was lying next to me, breathing softly in the dark, and I kept thinking about that envelope. That card. That whisper, "Not now, he's here." I stared at the ceiling for hours, trying to piece it all together. And then I remembered something. We shared a cloud account. The kind that synced text messages and call logs between devices, a leftover from when we set up our new phones months ago. Neither of us had disabled it. I got up, walked to my laptop, and opened the account. And what I found confirmed everything. Calls almost daily to a number I didn't recognize. At all hours. Sometimes twice a night. I searched the number. The name that came up was Justin Miller. I clicked into the message log. There they were: texts, photos, emojis, pet names. Nothing work-related. Just her, sending selfies in hotel mirrors and messages like "counting down the hours until I see you again," and "last night still has me smiling." My hands were shaking. The worst part? I remembered the exact day she'd said she had an interview with a major client. She wore a sharp new blazer and spent the whole morning prepping. I even wished her good luck. And later that day, on my way back from the store, I saw her. Outside a cafe, leaning in to kiss a man goodbye. She said it was the recruiter. Now I knew his name. Justin. They say when you find out the truth, everything suddenly makes sense. But that wasn't true for me. The more I saw, the less I understood. It was like being handed a puzzle where every piece was just another sharp edge. That night, after Haley had fallen asleep, I sat alone in the kitchen, laptop open, the light of the screen casting a cold glow across the counter. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even feel angry. Not yet. What I felt was suspended. Like I was floating outside myself, watching a movie where the lead guy, me, had no idea his life was already a lie. The messages between her and Justin Miller were worse than I expected. It wasn't just a few flirty exchanges or vague innuendo. This was real. An asterisk mate. Ongoing. She told him things she hadn't said to me in years. Called him baby. Said she missed his voice. Joked about sneaking away together for a weekend without the guilt. I clicked and clicked, scanning through dates, times, attachments. Each one was a blow. A betrayal not just of our marriage, but of who I believed she was. There were photos too. Some of her in hotel rooms posing in that same lingerie I'd found before she wore it, I assumed. Some of him. Shirtless. Always smiling like he didn't have a care in the world. There were even voice notes, little messages she'd recorded for him. "Can't stop thinking about your hands. I wish I was falling asleep next to you tonight." I couldn't listen to more than one. I felt sick. But one detail hit me the hardest. It was from 2 weeks ago. Haley had told me she had a late client dinner and wouldn't be home until midnight. She made a big deal about the restaurant, even described the menu like she was trying to convince herself just as much as me. But the timestamp on the message to Justin that night said otherwise. "Thanks for tonight. I wish it never had to end." And below that, a photo, the two of them in a hotel room, selfie style, her head resting on his chest, both of them glowing under soft lamplight. She was wearing nothing but the sheets. I closed the laptop slowly, like if I moved gently enough, the pain wouldn't snap. I stayed in that chair until the sun started to rise, and when I finally crawled back into bed beside her, she stirred briefly, sighed, and rolled over to face the other way. The next day, I called in sick to work. I couldn't sit through meetings pretending to care about spreadsheets and deadlines while my marriage was bleeding out in silence. Instead, I started digging deeper. I checked our shared credit card history, something I'd never had a reason to do before. She handled most of our finances. She liked it that way, said it helped her stay organized. But now I wanted to know everything. And sure enough, there it was. Hotel charges. Dinner dates. Flights that didn't match up with the ones she told me about. One particularly expensive charge at a boutique jewelry store caught my eye. It was from 2 days before our anniversary. I remembered I'd gotten her a custom necklace that year. She gave me socks. But according to the receipt, she'd spent $450 on a bracelet. One I never saw. She hadn't even bothered to hide it well. She just assumed I wouldn't look. That hurt more than anything. Not the cheating itself, not even the lies, but the sheer confidence she had that I wouldn't question it. That I'd just smile, nod, and keep being the good husband while she led a second life. At that point, there was no more denying it. She was having an affair. An actual, full-fledged affair, not a mistake, not a weak moment, but a choice. A commitment. And I wasn't a part of it. That night, she came home earlier than usual. Her mood was soft, maybe even a little subdued. She kissed me on the forehead and asked how my day was. I told her it was fine. We had dinner. Talked about the neighbor's new dog. Watched an episode of a show we used to love, though now it felt like background noise. All the while, I watched her. I looked at her hands, the ones that had written for a special night in a card meant for someone else. I listened to her voice, the same voice that whispered, "I love you," to another man. I felt nothing. Or maybe I felt too much to name. Later that night, I tried to catch her off guard. "So, when's your next trip?" I asked casually as she folded laundry. She paused, glanced at me. Oh, not sure yet. Waiting to hear back from the client. I nodded. "Still the same team as before?" "Yeah, mostly." "Why?" I shrugged. "Just curious. You seemed really happy when you got back last time." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "It was just a good trip. That's all." Then she asked if I could grab her charger from the bedroom. I said sure, and when I returned, she was already texting someone. She quickly turned off the screen when she saw me. My heart hammered in my chest, but my face stayed calm. That night, while she was in the shower, I opened her bag again. Just to see. Just to know. The card was gone. So was the lingerie. Maybe she'd moved it. Maybe she'd used it. I didn't want to know which. I went back to our room, lay down, and stared at the ceiling while the water ran behind the bathroom door. I thought about confronting her. Right there. Telling her I knew everything, the texts, the photos, the lies. I imagined the look on her face. Shock? Regret? Defiance? But something stopped me. Maybe it was the fear that she'd lie again. That she'd twist it into something innocent. Maybe it was because I didn't want to give her the power to control the narrative. Or maybe it was because I wasn't ready yet. Not to forgive. Not to leave. But to fight back smart. I needed proof. Real, undeniable proof. And I needed a plan. Because this, whatever this was, wasn't over. Not yet. There's a certain numbness that sets in when you live with betrayal. It's like your emotions shut down, one by one, until all that's left is focus. I wasn't the guy who snooped. I wasn't the guy who checked call logs or stalked social media. But now? I couldn't afford to be the guy who just stood still and let this happen to him. I needed to know everything. And I needed to be smart about it. I remembered a guy I used to work with, Steve, who'd gone through something similar. His ex-wife had been cheating for months. He caught her thanks to a private investigator he hired. Discreet, efficient, and, according to him, worth every cent. I messaged him that night. "Hey, I need a favor. You still have the number of that PI you used?" He sent it back within minutes. "Her name's Laura. She's legit. Be honest with her. She'll find what you need." So I called. Laura's voice was calm, steady. Professional. She didn't sound surprised when I explained the situation. I told her everything, the lingerie, the texts, the man named Justin Miller, the trips, the lies. When I finished, there was a short pause. "You've already got a strong case," she said. "But if you want undeniable proof, visual, time-stamped, irrefutable, I can get that." "Whatever it takes," I said. "I just want the truth. And I don't want her to know I'm looking." We met 2 days later in a quiet coffee shop on the edge of town. Laura was sharp-eyed, maybe late 30s, wearing a blazer and jeans, and had a way of speaking that told me she'd seen 100 versions of my story. She took notes while I handed her printed **TS of the texts, the hotel receipts, even a list of dates when Haley claimed to be on work trips. She skimmed everything quickly, then looked up. "She's not being careful," she said. "That works in our favor." Over the next few days, I played the part of the clueless husband. I didn't confront Haley. I didn't act different. If anything, I was sweeter. I kissed her goodnight. Made her coffee in the morning. Asked about her work. She smiled at me, sometimes touched my arm, but I could see the distance in her eyes, like I was just a stand-in now. Laura started tracking Haley that week. She followed her to a boutique downtown where Haley met Justin, the man I'd only seen in pictures, in person. Laura sent me a photo. Haley and Justin holding hands in front of the glass storefront, both of them laughing, unaware they were being watched. The next day, another photo. This time, Haley and Justin at an outdoor cafe sitting close. Her hand was on his knee under the table. She looked relaxed. Happy. Like she belonged there. I stared at the images for hours, memorizing them. Each one chipped away at something inside me. Laura sent me her findings in regular updates. She even managed to tail Haley back to a midtown hotel where she and Justin spent several hours together before leaving separately. No check-in, no bags, just a quiet, discreet entrance. She'd clearly done this before. One night, Haley came home late again. Her excuse was another client meeting, but I already had Laura's report. There had been no meeting. She and Justin had taken a walk through Zilka Park, then had dinner at a place she used to take me to. The irony made my stomach turn. I asked her how it went. She shrugged. Boring. Long presentations. You would have hated it. I smiled. Maybe next time you'll let me tag along. She laughed, but it was forced. You'd be asleep in 5 minutes. I almost felt sorry for her in that moment. Almost. Because the lie came so easily. Like breathing. A few days later, Laura sent me something different. A digital copy of a hotel reservation, 2 names listed, Haley Thomas and Justin Miller. It was for a weekend getaway in San Diego. Ocean View Suite. 3 nights. She had used a personal email account I'd never seen before and paid with a different card. That broke me in a way nothing else had. She wasn't just having an affair. She was building a life with him, or at least, a fantasy of one. While I made dinner, folded laundry, paid bills, she was planning beach mornings and late nights with someone else. Someone who, until a few weeks ago, I didn't even know existed. That night, she told me she had another trip coming up. Said it was a last-minute thing, a client from California needed help with a remodel. Just a few days, she said, brushing hair from her face. You'll be okay without me, right? I stared at her, searching her face. Was she testing me? Did she suspect I knew? I said, of course. Do what you need to. She smiled. Kissed me goodnight. Then she went into the bathroom and locked the door. I waited 10 minutes, then opened her laptop. It was on the dining table. Unlocked. I searched her browser history. Found a tab still open for a romantic seafood restaurant on the San Diego coast. Another tab with spa reservations. A shared playlist titled Us. My name wasn't on any of it. At that point, Laura and I agreed it was time to gather the final piece, video evidence. She pulled security footage from the boutique, the hotel, even the restaurant entrances. Then she dug deeper, pulling clips from the hotel lobby's internal system. What she showed me made it all real in a way I couldn't escape from. Haley and Justin entering the hotel late at night. Holding hands. Kissing in the elevator. Entering a room together. They didn't come out until morning. I watched it in silence, numb, like I was watching someone else's wife. Someone else's story. In another folder, Laura included *TS of Justin's social media. I hadn't even thought to check. He was married. Married with a kid. A little girl who looked just like him. Laura confirmed it. The man my wife was sneaking around with had his own family. And now I wasn't just a betrayed husband. I was part of a web of lies that stretched across 2 households. I thought about his wife. Wondered if she knew. Wondered if she was up late, just like I was, wondering why the man she loved had grown distant. Why his smile no longer belonged to her. Laura said she could reach out to her if I wanted. Discreetly. I wasn't sure yet. What I did know was this: when I finally confronted Haley, I wouldn't be guessing. I wouldn't be asking questions she could dodge. I would have everything. Every timestamp. Every photo. Every lie turned into a printed truth. So I organized it. I backed everything up: the messages, the photos, the reservation, the videos. I printed it all and stored copies in a private folder. Then I burned it onto a flash drive, labeled simply with the date. The confrontation was coming. And when it did, I wanted there to be no room left for lies. There's a moment right before you make something final where time feels like it hesitates. Like the world is giving you one last chance to turn back. But I didn't want to turn back. I was done pretending. Done guessing. Done holding my breath every time Haley glanced at her phone or said she had a meeting. The evidence Laura gathered wasn't just enough, it was overwhelming. I remember sitting alone in the guest room, which had quietly become my default bedroom, staring at the USB drive in my hand. It was just a sliver of metal and plastic, but it held everything. Her texts, her voice notes, her photos with Justin. The hotel reservation. The videos. All of it. An entire betrayal compressed into gigabytes. I plugged it into my laptop. One folder at a time, I opened it all again. Just to make sure. There they were, Haley and Justin in the boutique, laughing as they tried on sunglasses. Holding hands like high schoolers in love. Then the restaurant. A candlelit table, their knees touching beneath the tablecloth. The same spot she'd taken me for my birthday last year. Another file, grainy security footage from the entrance of the upscale hotel. She wore the same blue dress she claimed she packed, just in case, for a formal client dinner. Her heels clicked softly as she walked ahead of Justin, who followed behind her like he already owned the room. They didn't check in at the front desk. Laura explained that they used mobile entry, the kind you access from a phone app. In the next clip, they were in the elevator. Alone. He leaned in. She didn't hesitate. Their kiss was long, familiar. An asterisk mate. Then they entered a room together. The timestamp said 11:08 p.m. They didn't come out until 9:41 a.m. the next day. And finally, a reservation confirmation for the following month, San Diego. Beachfront suite? 2 guests. Paid in full. The notes section on the reservation read, anniversary getaway. I stared at that detail for a long time. It wasn't their anniversary. It was ours. The dates matched exactly. The weekend she'd told me she was booked solid with design consultations in California. The same weekend I was planning to surprise her with dinner at our favorite spot downtown. I printed everything. I didn't want to rely on screens. I wanted her to see it all physically. Tangible. Real. She gaslight me for long enough. I needed this confrontation to be undeniable. Each printout went into a folder. Thick, heavy, black cover. No labels. I slipped the USB drive into a side pocket and zipped it shut. And then I waited. That evening, Haley came home around 7:30 p.m. I heard her heels in the entryway, the soft sound of her humming as she kicked off her shoes. I sat in the kitchen, folder in front of me like a loaded P***N. Hey babe, she called. Smells good in here. You cooking something? No, I said calmly. Just warmed up leftovers. She walked in, her eyes tired but bright. She looked like she always did after a day of pretending, just a little too put together. She kissed me on the cheek. I didn't respond. She froze. You okay? I nodded toward the folder. Why don't you sit down? There's something we need to talk about. Her smile faded. What is it? Just sit, I said, quieter this time. She slid into the chair opposite me. Her eyes drifted to the folder, then back to my face. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. I want to ask you something, I began. Just one question. She swallowed. Okay. I leaned forward, arms on the table. Is there anything you want to tell me? Silence. Longer than it should have been. When she didn't answer, I pushed the folder toward her. She hesitated, then opened it. The first thing she saw was a still image, the boutique. Her and Justin, side by side, laughing. Her face drained of color. What is this? She whispered. I said nothing. She flipped to the next page, the dinner photo. Then the hotel footage. Then the text messages. One by one. With each image, each timestamp, I watched her crumble just a little more. Mark, wait, this isn't what it looks like. I laughed. Bitter, humorless. Don't say that. Please. You and I both know what this is. She reached across the table. Let me explain. I pulled back. There's nothing left to explain, I said. I've got the call logs. The texts. The photos. The hotel footage. The upcoming trip. I know everything, Haley. Her eyes filled with tears. Mark, I didn't mean for this to happen. I nodded. But it did. I was lonely, you. Don't, I said, sharper now. Don't insult me. Don't reduce this to you being lonely. You lied. You cheated. You planned getaways while I was making you dinner. You used our anniversary weekend to run off to San Diego with another man. She started crying. Full on now. It wasn't serious. It was a mistake. I got caught up, and then I didn't know how to stop. Funny, I said. You looked pretty serious in the elevator. She put her head in her hands. Please, don't do this. We can fix this. I'll do anything. I stared at her for a long moment. Do you love him? Her head snapped up. No. God, no. But you were ready to spend the weekend with him on our anniversary. She opened her mouth again, but no words came. I'm filing for divorce, I said, standing. The papers are already drafted. I'll give you time to find somewhere to go. Her face collapsed. You're not even going to try? I tried, I said, every day, while you were somewhere else. She reached out again, pleading now. Mark, please, don't leave like this. I looked down at her. I'm not the one who left. You did. The minute you let him touch you, you left. I walked to the door, pausing only once. You made your choice, Haley. And then I left the room. That night, I didn't go far, just far enough. I checked into a budget hotel on the east side of town. The kind with flickering hallway lights and vending machines that never worked. But it was quiet and it was mine. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the thin curtains, and let the silence stretch. My phone buzzed once, twice, then a flood. Haley. First a text. Please, let's talk. I can't sleep. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Then, I love you. I never stopped. I didn't reply. Instead, I called my lawyer in the morning. We'd spoken once before, briefly. This time it was serious. He was calm, efficient, the kind of person who'd walked others through this exact kind of mess. I gave him everything, the dates, the evidence, even Laura's files. "I'll have the papers ready by the end of the week," he said. Later that day, Laura texted me something I hadn't asked for but needed. Justin Miller was married. His wife, Emily, had started her own investigation after noticing similar red flags, and now she was preparing to confront him. That changed everything. Suddenly, I wasn't just the wounded husband in this mess. I was part of a chain reaction Haley never saw coming. When I told Haley I'd left, she begged me to come back, cried over the phone. "We can work through this," she said. None of it meant anything, but that was the part she never understood. It did mean something, not just to her and Justin, but to me, to everything I thought we'd built. I returned once, briefly, to gather my things. She tried to stop me at the door, but I didn't even look her in the eye. I just said, "You need to move out." She stared at me, silent, tears forming. "Where am I supposed to go?" "Wherever he is," I said. "I don't care anymore." She didn't reply. The divorce moved fast. There was no fight, not when she had no defense. I got everything I asked for. The apartment, the car, even the savings account she tried to hide by transferring money into a new one. The lawyer found it easily. As for Justin, Emily went public. She posted the affair across every platform she had. Pictures, messages, even a timeline. She didn't hold back. I didn't blame her. Haley lost everything. Not just me, but the future she tried to script behind my back. Her firm quietly let her go, though they never said it was related. Word travels in a city like Austin. For a while, I didn't trust the quiet. I kept waiting for more fallout. But instead, life slowly began to rebuild itself. I started running again. Not to lose weight or hit a goal, but just to move. Just to feel something other than bitterness. I reconnected with friends. People I hadn't spoken to in months because I was too busy making space for someone who no longer valued me. And one morning, in a coffee shop I used to avoid because Haley thought it was too noisy, I met someone. Her name was Morgan. She was reading a book I loved, something obscure, and when I mentioned it, she smiled. Genuinely, not out of politeness. We talked for nearly an hour. No expectations, no performance. Just conversation. It wasn't a love at first sight moment, but it was a beginning, a real one. And that's when I realized I wasn't broken anymore. I was free. And ahead of me, completely different story. One I finally got to write for myself.